if the parent who abducted the child disobeys the order, the parent with the court order can take legal action against the non-compliant parent. It's important to know that this route depends on the country where the child has been taken being a signatory to the Hague Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction. If not, a more complex route under the Guardianship of Infants Act is required, which moves on to our second method. A situation where your child has been taken abroad without your consent can be incredibly distressing. Singapore has legal mechanisms in place to help you reunite with your child, and here are 3 ways. First, the ICAA. This is the simplest way to address child abduction, by filing an application under Section 8 of the ICAA. This act applies to children who are under 16. The steps are as follows. Number 1, file an originating summons with a supporting affidavit at the family courts. Number 2, if the court approves your application, it will order the child's return. Number 3, once the order is granted, the Singapore Central Authority will collaborate with the authorities in the country where the child has been taken to secure the child's return. Number 4, if the parent who abducted the child disobeys the order, the parent with the court order can take legal action against the non-compliant parent. It's important to know that this route depends on the country where the child has been taken being a signatory to the Hague Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction. If not, a more complex route under the Guardianship of Infants Act is required, which moves on to our second method. Under Section 14 of the GIA, the court may order the sheriff to seize the child and deliver them into the custody of their lawful guardian. However, there's a crucial requirement. Step 1, the party applying to the court must have care and control of the child as required under the GIA. Step 2, sometimes the applicant may not have care and control due to earlier divorce proceedings, and in such cases, the applicant must first vary the court order before applying to the GIA. Step 3, after the successful application, the applicant must reseal the family court order in the family division of the High Court for use in the country where the child has been taken to. Step 4, finally, the applicant should then engage lawyers in the country where the child has been taken to enforce the court order. Number 3, injunctions. There are some practical challenges in the ICAA and GIA routes, particularly in locating the child overseas. To address this, a court-ordered injunction can be obtained to prevent the parent from leaving Singapore with the child in the first place. Here's how. Step 1, apply for an injunction under the Women's Charter or the ICAA. Step 2, to grant the injunction, the court must consider 2 main factors. There must be a serious question to be tried, and number 2, granting the injunction should cause less inconvenience overall than not granting it. Additionally, the court considers whether damages will be an adequate remedy. Step 3, an application for an injunction can also be made without notice given to the other party, meaning the other party need not be present. In terms of limitation, an injunction only applies if the parent is still in Singapore. Suppose the parent has already left Singapore with the child. Now, in that case, an injunction becomes ineffective and the aggrieved party must rely on the ICAA and GIA. So in summary, knowing what your options are when dealing with a child abduction situation is important. Consider the ICAA, which can be straightforward, but it depends on the country's adherence to the Hague Convention. There's also the GIA, which is useful if you have care and control. There's also injunctions, which is a preventive measure to keep the child in Singapore and is best applied when both parents are still in the country. Each of these options has their own set of limitations and advantages, so it's important to carefully assess all of them before you decide which one to take. So now you know. If you found this helpful, follow and subscribe to our channel for more legal things.